Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's XAUUSD webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Tonight's webinar is Forex Trading Live Market Analysis. And just to give you a heads up what's coming up from me this week, tomorrow I'll be going through trade orders and execution, how to use market, stop and limit orders. That will be at 8 p.m. Sydney time tomorrow, Wednesday. And on Thursday at the same time, 8 p.m. a live Forex market review. So that's what's coming out from me this week. All right, so before we get into anything, let's please everybody read through the risk disclaimer. If you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you're more than welcome to join us in the webinar. Just follow the link. For those in the webinar, I've got the webinar chat box or question and answer box open. If you have any questions, just type them in. So I'll just give you a moment or two to read through the disclaimer before we move along. And I was away last week, so I'm just getting back into what the market's doing. But that being said, I was following it a little bit while I was on holiday on my phone. All right, let's move along. If you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at XAUUSD Securities. I am a full-time Forex trader. I've been trading now for more than 15 years and I'm mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email's there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. And through the week, you can connect with us at the website, acy.com, go to the Market News tab, or our YouTube channel, XAUUSD Securities Australia. If you want to connect with me personally, my Linktree page is there. You can just connect with me on that page. And if you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates for MT4 that I'm using, then contact Nathan.bray and I'll put his details in the chat for you. Any questions about the webinars, really, if you want to help with the demo account or live account, get my chart layouts and templates for MT4, just contact Nathan. There we go. All right, so first up, let's get into the news events for the week so we know what's coming up and out that can affect the market. So we are in Tuesday, 13th. Now, a very high impacting news item coming out later in the evening. These times are my time, Queensland time. I'm at forexfactory.com. So 11:30 p.m. Queensland time, we have the US core CPI month on month, CPI year on year. These are the inflation figures that obviously have a very large impact on whether the Federal Reserve will raise, pause, or drop interest rates. So the market is going to be clearly looking at that. Year on year, anticipating it's coming down to 2.9 here on the figures. So we'll have to wait and see. Getting into tomorrow, we have the CPI data for the pound at 5 p.m. Expecting a slight uptick there. All right, those over the next just over 24 hours, those are the two events to watch. In Thursday, Governor Bay speaking in the morning, early 1 a.m. and Aussie unemployment and employment change rates figures coming out 10:30 in the morning on Thursday. And you can go and catch up with what else is coming out, but let's just cover the first 2 days there. I'll be back with you doing more analysis on Thursday so I can catch up with further items. But I like to look at the news for the whole week. So head over to forexfactory.com. It's a good place to get your calendar. And I'll just look at the red events, red items coming out. All right, so very notably is the US CPI data coming out tonight. I'm not taking any new positions ahead of then. So I want to get into my analysis right now. I'm just going to be talking about levels I'm watching for the market to maybe turn around. And I'm just going to just pausing one moment. All right, just getting a technical issue on the screen. All right, so let's start with the dollar index. And I'm just going to go through the levels I'm watching for the week. Levels I might be watching the price to get moved to when the news item comes out later in the day. And we're talking about general trends. So this is the dollar index. I'm on the monthly chart. Just want to get rid of that line. And last month, as we started to head up, I was putting out the idea where we're forming an inverse head and shoulders here on the monthly chart, and we've had 2 positive months now. Last month was positive, and coming up, this month is actually taking out the highs of January and December. So, unless things change, US dollar is positive at the moment on this monthly structure, and we could be moving up, to test last year's high, 107.36. And are we going to head up towards a 127 extension? So are we having a year up this year? We're going to take out the high of last year. Of course, a lot has to happen for us to do that. But at the moment, are we forming a little left shoulder, head, right shoulder here? Discussing all that last month. So bullish structure there on the monthly. On the weekly here, we now have a higher top, or we've traded above the last lower top on the weekly, so that's turning up. We've had a slight week down this week, but we're already positive for the week, so maybe that's as much of a down dip we can have on the dollar index this week. We'll have to wait and see what the inflation data comes out. CPI data is tonight, and whilst I didn't say, we have the PPI data on Friday from the US, so 2 inflation figures coming out. All right, so that will most definitely impact whether this dollar index is going to move higher. And we're just testing over here, weekly resistance at 104.66. And daily, it's just showing you it's putting higher bottoms, higher tops. It's in an uptrend. It's been a little bit consolidatory here as we're waiting for tonight's data, but unless the data comes out not as expected, well, if it comes out very good inflationary wise, that's not really US dollar positive. But at the moment, all data has been leading to the idea that the US economy is, fairly robust. And the Fed last FOMC statement really didn't put a date on when we might see an interest rate cut. So that's all been US dollar positive. So that's how the market's been unfolding. So at the moment, still higher tops and bottoms. If we break this area here, or more, this area of support just here, and then these highs to the left, if that area gets significantly negated to the downside, we may get a shift in trend. But whilst that is offering an area of support, we probably just have to have the overall look that, pairs to the US dollar generally are moving down, whilst they were rallying last week, but moving down for the longer term. Okay. All right, S&P 500, if you've been watching it, it's all to a new high yesterday. To the monthly chart here, we're above the all-time high. Weekly trend is up. It is quite elongated. We're into since the low 2, 4, 5, 6 week up. So it's very high. I don't like to be buying 6 weeks up. I want to be buying in the first 1 or 2 weeks if I'm holding a position. So it has put a high bottom here, moving up. Not had a dip for quite a few trading days. So if you want to get long this, you want to be looking for a dip. And I would generally be looking at the 62 to 79% area for a dip back into. Can you see yourself to buy for the next move up? So at the moment, it's really in the profit-taking phase of the move. You want to be looking for a dip at the moment, but it's in a complete uptrend, as we can see. All right, let's get into the currency pairs now. The euro dollar, just having a drop down to support on the 50-minute chart here. Now, here's the daily chart. I might go to the weekly chart first of all. Here's a major range where we've rallied back up, failed at the 79% level at the start or end of last year, start of this year. And it's just trading into an area of support at the moment, which it needs to negate to continue its move down. I'm expecting that this is going to be, in general terms, a move down, up, down. That's how I'm expecting price to unfold, unless the fundamental data shifts. At the moment, that's kind of how price is leading us to believe. Fair at the 79% level. So it's just having just a week up from a bounce off weekly support of 107.23. And there's day support 107.56 and this whole area from 107.56 to the weekly low here at 107.23 is obviously support. So we're testing support today. It's not where you want to just sell. Yesterday was a quite a nice area on these lows here to look for your sell yesterday. Whether it was yesterday or Friday, we tagged that area twice. So we can't really go back retrospectively, but what we can do today, depending on what the news does, this is actually last week's high, overlapping with the low of last month. These dashed lines are representing last week's high and last month's low. There's two different colors here, but so that area is the area to watch. That's where price has been flying. It's 107.94. Pretty much 10800, close to. All right. Now we could well revisit that level after the US dollar today, and that's what I would be looking at. I'm not going to sell into support. This is where the market's been holding at Friday into Monday. So that being said, that's, long-term trend is down. My day chart trend here is down. Lower top, lower bottom. We're holding here, but we might get a retest on the news. So that would be the level to watch, 107.94, around about 10800 if the volatility news spikes it up. Other than that, for me at the moment, euro dollar, it's not in a great area to be selling into. Now it could come down to 107.23, which is weekly support and hold, and want to move back up the range. So that's another level you could watch when the news comes out. But if we want to trade with the trend is down. It's just a question of, do you want to be selling into support? All right. So this needs a bit of patience at the moment, this pair. All right, but I will be watching up here 107.94. Euro yen. All right. Now the dollar yen, if I just flick over to the dollar yen before I talk about other yen pairs, is moving up. Is it going to come back up to potentially challenge last year's high, the previous year's high? Just moving above the area of weekly resistance that was just trading above the 79% level. It's still a possibility this could top out in this area and turn back over to the downside. So with that in mind, we are very high levels where intervention coming from the bodge. So it's worth understanding the position of the dollar yen before we talk about other yen crosses, okay? All right, so the euro yen, it has previously, over the last month, failed at this area of resistance, 161.24. I've actually tagged that level today and last Friday. So I've been looking at this as potentially maybe mapping out like so, down to a lower bottom, coming up and moving this way. Now, it has moved down, but it's found support through this area. There's daily highs in here that it moved down to. And of course, it's coming back up to retest the day resistance level. Now, this could still continue. If it doesn't take out this high here, this can still move down this way long term. So there's a big question as to whether we're going to break above this high or not. So at the moment, when we break it down in the day chart, let me just get rid of that line. This daily support that got broken, we traded a little bit through there January, trade down. At the moment now, though, we're kind of holding at that level, 161.24. So failed just short of 79 there, dropped down, rallied back up. If I move it to the 4-hour chart, then this range where we move down, this will rally back up. We're at the 79% level there. So back to the day chart. We just want to move this across. All right, failed at that 79% level. Now this moved down, rally back up. We're potentially failing this 79% level. Now we could break higher, or we could hold here and see whilst I was suggesting that we might be long-term, you know, like so, in this area now, you know, we could be going down, rally, down, and, you know, we could see the wave structure forming to move down in the longer term picture. So the question is, are we failing up here at 161.24? I'm sure this week we're going to find out whether we are or we aren't. So as a trader, you have to decide, do you think we're breaking higher, or are we going to hold here? Hi to you, Azu. Thank you for your welcome back. So there's the question, are we holding here or are we breaking higher? At the moment, you know, the day's positive. If at the moment I'm not seeing, other than you just have to bite the bullet and say, I'm going to trade here. You could be trading with 100 pips stop above, getting you stop above this area here on the basis that price can't break above here and we're going to fail, or you need to wait for a signal that we're going to reverse. Day chart's not giving you a signal yet, but if we put in a reversal candle today, that will be the start of a signal that maybe we're failing here. On the 4-hour chart, this could form equal highs up here. Even on the 4-hour chart, if the current candle is going to finish at my 8 o'clock, if we get a rejection candle and you're prepared to take a position ahead of the US news, if we get a rejection candle here, you could trade the break of the rejection candle, put your stop above the high. So, you know, trading the break of the candle, stop above here. But you have to be prepared to be in when the US news comes out. Other than that, you want to be looking for a setup for reversal here at the moment. It's very high to be a buyer, but we could break higher. But at the moment, it's in an area where we could most definitely fail. So just monitoring for potential failure there at the moment. Looking at 15-minute chart, it is starting to just give you a little bit of a breakdown. So you just need to decide, do you want to bite the bullet here and sell, or wait for more information, or wait past the US job figures? All right, Amos, when we go back to the euro dollar, just going to spend my time on the 4-hour chart here, or back to the day chart. This area where we rallied back to, these lows in here, trend is down, and we're holding at resistance here. I'm not that happy where price is sitting at in the moment because we're on support. I don't want to sell into support. But after the figures coming out later in the day, if price was to come back up to 107.94, where resistance is being clearly shown in line with the day chart downtrend, that would be an area that I would watch. To the 4-hour chart, that would be an area that I would watch for possible failure today if we could rally back up. All right. And whilst it wouldn't be a perfect looking head and shoulder pattern, potentially, you know, there's a little left shoulder here on the 4-hour. There's a head here. And, you know, if price was to come up, this, you know, potentially could form some kind of, not perfect, but some formation of a head and shoulder pattern there at known resistance for then a move down. I'm very careful here not to be selling into day support, weekly support. So I'd want to sell down from resistance, okay? All right. Now, the euro pound continuing to break down. It's not in a great area. It's had a very small rally on the weekly chart at the moment. It is underneath this weekly level of support here, 85.43. I've actually held there this week already, but we're coming into lots of weekly support lows to the left here that I've mentioned before. It's just not a great area to be a seller into because you're in a support zone. You know, if you want to sell, you want to be selling down from 85.43 if it can retest that area. At the moment, there's not that much room to support. So depending on your philosophy of the euro pound, if we came down to support, which is monthly support at 84.92, well, the market could hold there and quite clearly reverse back up because it's monthly support. So at the moment, your level to trade down from, go to the day chart, would be potentially a retest of 85.43, or do we get a reversal back up from 84.92? All right, it's not in the best area at the moment. We have had this, that nice rally back up to the 79% area. This is where you wanted to get short, because really we're coming into the 127 extension area, which is a profit-taking area. So I don't think there's much time left for the sellers in terms of high probability, and we could see a bounce down here at 84.92. So those are the levels to watch. All right, let's get into the pound, which did bounce up on the claimant count figures earlier in the day, which were a little bit more positive, less few claimants, less few people claiming unemployment. However, this was the job figures start of the month, and we've been coming back up. This is my 4-hour chart. So to the day chart, we've been coming back up within this drop. And really, we're holding at this broken level of day support, where we were rather range bound and getting support on. We broke below it through the job figures, and that's really becoming resistance, 126.49. So if you're prepared to trade ahead of the US dollar later, this is resistance in line with the daily downtrend. Slightly lower top to lower bottom. This is rally. Trend here is down, rally, OE coming down this way. Now there's quite a number of data points coming out this week for the pound that could drive this up. So we could drive all the way back up to this area if you really wanted to. But at the moment, it's been held here. So you have to go with the level that's holding at the moment, in line with the trend. So the 4-hour chart, you can see here, yesterday we came up and heavily rejected. And today's 4-hour candle isn't being able to move really above yesterday's high. I think traded 1 or 2 pips above. And last week's high point at 26.42. So it's getting held here. Are we failing here to move down? The news has just spiked up. Before the news, we actually started putting the lower top here on the 4-hour chart to potentially move down. So to the 15-minute chart, you could certainly watch back up here at 126.49 if you can get back up there today. So yesterday's high, daily resistance, this is the zone to watch for failure through the day. All right, after the job figures, after the CPI data figures coming out, do we fail here? We could, as I said before, go higher. I would be looking up at, go back to my day chart, this area in here that I've got drawn off on the 4-hour chart levels here, that 4-hour top up to this top over here, or that top there, this whole area here, we could definitely, news could definitely drive price up to there. And if we clear, let's say we clear 26.49 today, you could look for 26.49 to be support to move up the range. So depending on what news items deliver, yes, we could move above here. But then you want to watch this to be support. And do we come up to this area and then fail at the top of the range? Or are we failing here? So you're going to need to make a decision after the news items. Is that level holding, or do you see it breaking above to become support? Or of course, you could be making a decision now to shorten out at resistance in anticipation of the US dollar getting stronger. Have you stop? You could put your stop above here at 127.71. So that's going to be quite a large stop, about 120, 130, but depends how you want to trade. All right, so levels to watch at the moment is being held at 126.49, about 126.50. But news could get driven up to this area depending on the volatility. All right, pound yen, and This is slightly bullish, and the pound yen is more than bullish at the moment. So this could come most definitely up to the higher areas of that chart there. All right, pound yen, unless we false break, we may be breaking above this potential old double top area that was. All right, breaking higher after we've had some positive UK data. Now, just want to take that line off. We're just trying to break above this monthly high here, 188.80. So by the end of the day, at the moment, it's just a monitoring thing. Hopefully you can see from a historical price point on the pound yen, this is very high. From kind of June 2015 up here, we're at very high levels, selling levels for the pound yen. Yes, this can continue up, but you have to be very notable that when you're coming up to a historical area of resistance, we will often fail. And if you move down close to, like down here, when you move down close to a historical area of support, so that's a historical area of support, we false broke, then we came fractionally short, and it holds. So at the moment, we're obviously short of this high. There's two highs here that we're testing. This one over here is at 189.70. So we need that level actually in. $89.74 is the number. At the moment, we're trying to move above this high at 188.80. Previous to today, we couldn't quite touch it. Weekly trend here is up. So maybe we're moving higher for the long term at the moment. But depending on what the data comes out, what does it do over the next 24 to 48 hours? Does it start to close above 188.80? Intraday, if we do, you want to start to look at 188.80, the monthly high, to be support. But we're not that far away from the next resistance level at 189.70 as well. So you have to pick your battles. Are you prepared to buy up here at such high levels? 4-hour chart. If I wanted to buy at the moment, I would need to see a pullback to support that I'm detailing. And there's also these 4-hour tops here as well. So from last month's high at 188.92 down to 188.80. Right, that's the area that you want to see support coming in intraday. So does this pull back to that area? Do you see intraday support to continue the upward move at the moment? That is the trend which is up. If we get a rejection candle and we close back below 180.80, then really you're looking at 180.80 up to this high, last month's high, 188.92, to be resistance for a move back down the range. So question today is, are we able to keep the momentum going today and quite clearly close above 188.80? All right. All right, Aussie yen. Now, if you've been following my commentary in January, you would know that we're in the area that I've been discussing, that I've been looking at for failure for a move down. And we did move down, but we've come all the way back up to retest. So we're saying same thing on the Euro yen. We sold off, we come back up to the same area for a retest. And on the Aussie yen, the day chart here, I've been looking at this as a major decline. This is a rally to the 79% area. Came up to there. So we fractionally got above 79%, 97.54. I did sell it at 97.55. And this high over here at 97.66. Now, came up, we've obviously traded down. We didn't, I mean, I'm looking at this potentially to move down to there. 127 extension of that fib, 92.44. Of course, at the moment, we've moved down to here. and we're of this movement down. We're rallying back up, we're a fraction above the 79, but once more retesting this area over here. So like I was saying on the Euro yen, it's difficult at the moment with all these news items coming out because you don't know what the news item is going to do for a pair. Are we once more failing here at resistance to move down? So either going to have to bite the bullet and go, okay, I want to sell here, maybe stop 100 pips, so he stops getting above here somewhere, or you're waiting for some kind of signal on a lower time frame. Got to bear in mind that, do you want to buy here? That's the big question. Do you want to be a buyer into all this resistance where it keeps failing at? I don't. Are you seeing a clear signal that it's a short? So for our chart, this 4-hour candle here, see how we got driven up to resistance once more. This fib is actually drawn across last month's range and the new low of this month. Driven up. There's a very small here 79% retracement. See it close on the 15-minute chart, but 79% move up there on the 4-hour. If this candle finishes with a rejection, then potentially you could be waiting for then a break of the candlestick low as you trigger. You could be putting your stop just above here, but it'd be better to maybe put it above there. And then you're looking for a move down this way. All right, so potentially you could trade a 4-hour entry, break of the candlestick on the next candlestick forming. The next candlestick will start in 27 minutes, but of course, you're taking that trade based on the fact that you want to be in when the news comes out. Or wait for the news to come out. This may well come back up to retest and hold, and then you can look to trade after that, okay? All right, that's the Aussie yen. So are we failing up here between 97.55 to 97.66? I might just draw that in. I'll leave it in on there. Get my drawing tool working. That was my sell zone last month. It's still my sell zone this month. All right, Aussie dollar. Not easy going. This isn't a horrible position at the moment. Long term, I've been saying this since the start of January. To the weekly chart here, I'm looking at this as failed. It's moved down, rallied. Is it going to break through this weekly area of support here to come down and test last year's low here to do price action like so? Of course, at the moment, markets may be deciding that we're not going to get any more interest rate hikes for the Aussie, and maybe a cut's coming mid-year, maybe before mid-year. So then that's actually weak for the currency pair, unless the US starts cutting their interest rates harder. So that being said, I'm looking for this to move down, but at the moment, this is on top of weekly support. So it's not in a great place to decide, where you want to sell. So, and it's putting a little bit of an uptrend just in this area at the moment. Now, forgetting this little area of consolidation here, there's a range from this high to low. So I don't want to be selling into this zone that it's sitting on. And I've already told you the long-term direction that I'm looking at. So I'm not really looking to trade this up from support, even though, yes, support could hold here and this could trade all the way back up. I'm looking at what I'm seeing on the higher time frames as my dominant direction. And I don't want to sell into support. So I would be much happier just to watch this at the moment. Look at the 79 62 to 79% area up here, and just see if we can get a friendly move back up the range. This big drop that we had on the job figures from the US here, so if we move to the 4-hour chart, this big imbalance in here, we could well through the month come up and fill this imbalance if it wants to. If it does, it's going to come up to the 79% area. Okay, so up here would be where I'd like to engage. I don't want to engage where it's sitting, and you can see it's just kind of sideways. So you got to pick your battles with pairs at the moment, and for me this pair is not great, but if I wanted to take a position short for maybe a move through support here, I'd want to be looking up in this area here. Okay, so that's about 65.64 to 65.90 is the area I'm looking at. Can we fill this imbalance here? All right, New Zealand yen. So New Zealand pairs went up last week. Had a false change in trend on the weekly. The monthly is been rather range bound, but it's just holding its trend up here. Like I was saying on pound yen being at historical high levels, this is at very historical high levels too. All right. So as I said before, the dollar yen's at very high levels where we've been having last year intervention. So we're at historical highs or getting close to. That level there is 92.40. The weekly chart, this weekly high here, 91.51 we can't hold this week. So, and inflation figures from New Zealand today were a little bit lower, QQ. So that's good in terms of at some point maybe interest rates are going to drop. So that's actually weak for the New Zealand currency itself. All right, this keeps ticking down like so cute, quarter by quarter. Their interest rates, theoretically will come down. And if that cut is a lead to, before the US cuts its interest rates, then that's negative for the New Zealand crosses. So, but of course we're very positive leading into that event. So this is still in an uptrend on the weekly chart. All I'm very aware of is that we're at very high levels. So we could still be a buy on this pair. These three highs we took out. 1, 2, 3. We're just going to drag this line down to this top here. 90.98. If you thought we were failing up here for the long term, any retest of 91.51 this week, if you see it fail on a retest of 91.51, can you see you set up to sell? From the buyer's perspective, if we trade down to 90.98, that's the level to watch for support, for potentially support coming in here for maybe, and then the next move up to break above this area. Price can't hold above here at the moment, but it could simply pull back to this to be support, and then have another go and break higher. All right. So just the 4-hour chart. It's starting to break down on the 4-hour chart. It's got lower tops and bottoms. So at the moment, with this being down on the 4-hour, as long as it doesn't hit this level first, which is last month's high, and that top here, 90.98, this would be the level to watch at the moment. Does it once more come up here? If you've got a short bias to trade down, and then can we break below this level? If you've got a long bias, you want this level to hold as it comes down to then move back up. So at the moment, I'll be looking for, does it come for a retest to move down? If it doesn't rally for the retest and it comes back down to support, then the question will be, does support hold to move back up? So those are the levels to watch. Price is almost in the middle of those two levels at the moment, so it's not in a perfect position just to click in, but I watched 91.51 maybe for a retest and failure at the moment. New Zealand. It's been a little, this range I've got drawn in on my 4-hour chart here. It's the same range that I was showing you on the Aussie. We got up to the 79% level last week and started to trade down from that area. So to the weekly chart, well, I actually need to go to the monthly chart just to give you the full picture. Looking at a lower top forming on the monthly. Once more, trading like so. It's very similar to the Aussie. All right, at the moment, this is in an area of support like the Aussie. It's in here on weekly support and day support. And we had a weekly reversal last week. So we had a weekly rejection the week prior, weekly reversal back up, and it's quite consolidatory in here. A little bit pinned by day resistance and daily and weekly support. So it's by far ideal. Probably we may have failed at that 79% rally up here to move down, but I don't want to sell into support. If it did come back up, I'm just going to move to the 4-hour chart. If it did come back up, if it can come back up, watch the 79% level, 61.44. That would be up to last week's high for the opportunity to sell, to trade then down to test support and then can support break, because trend is down on the daily and the higher time frames, but you want to try and sell a rally. Well, we don't have a rally here right now. We're almost back onto support. So, it's always a question of patience. Where's the best? The imbalance I was talking to you about on the Aussie, the same imbalance was here on the New Zealand. Last week we came up to fill it, turn over to move back down. So it's a little bit weaker than the Aussie at the moment. Can it rally back up maybe to give you a second opportunity at around about the 61.44 area? Dollar Canadian, rather range bound. It's got a fractional high top here to that one, and there is the potential here, whilst it's range bound on the daily here, that Friday stab down there is forming some form of head and shoulder pattern there. It's rather range bound, but your monthly trend is like the dollar index, inverse head and shoulders here possibly forming. We've had a month up already to the previous month, so that is a higher bottom forming here. That is a higher top. In fact, price action here on the monthly looks exactly the same on the daily at the bottom of this monthly candle. Weekly, it's putting in a higher bottom on support here. Daily, as I was just saying, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. So I think maybe this is the bottom area coming in here. With the news volatility this week, buying at the 62 level here. If you can retest, tested it yesterday, 134.29, stop below the low. Are we seeing that head and shoulder pattern forming? To move up, so we can get back down to 134.29, 62 level. Looking for that pattern to come together. And the 4-hour is a little mixed there for me on the 4-hour. So area to watch as the news unfolds this week, I think, is the 62 level down to the 79% level there. 134.29 to 133.99, 134.00 area. Just come into this area, hold for a move back up. That's what I will be watching there. The Canadian, dollar franc. Whilst the monthly trend is down here, so it's a little bit in opposition to what we're seeing on the dollar index, because this should be the inverse. Dollar index is actually showing you a higher bottom on the monthly chart forming from a higher top. Well, so dollar index is a higher top, higher bottom. This is a lower top, lower bottom. But it is coming back now above all the monthly levels of support that it broke. Support here, support here, support here. So it's coming back above these levels. And the weekly trend is forming a higher bottom here. Came down for a retest of that support. I discussed that last month as a level to watch. So this is probably heading up to 88.87, this area of old support. This level here that we're moving above now, that's monthly old support or resistance, 87.57. That would really be this week a level to watch as support. All right. Been holding there for 3 days. We've broken above it today. So any pullback on a 4-hour chart at the moment. Now, if that was the high of the move up at the moment, 79% level would start to sit on top or very close to the level of monthly resistance we've broken above. So to me, 87.57 is an area to watch for price to dip down to at the moment for support. That's in a clear uptrend. But you don't want to be buying at the top of the move. So can that pull back? So monitor the fib tool on the 4-hour chart. Can it pull back to the 62.79% area? Okay, dollar yen. So we've had this drop on the weekly here. That's last year's high. That's the year before's high. There's a possibility of that being a major double top. We dropped. We're coming up. We're just a fraction above the 79% level of this rally back up at the moment. It's not really a rally if we break above this high. To me, it's a rally until we break above this high. But, you know, this is in a daily uptrend here just at the moment at very high levels. If this was to reject the 79% level, then, you know, I would start to maybe think about, is this reversing back down? I'm very much on the fence at the moment. This could quite clearly come up and test the high of last year or at very high levels. So do you want to be a buyer of the dollar yen at such high levels where the Bodge was intervening last year? You know, I'd be cautious about that. So I'm on the fence at the moment with this one, not doing anything unless I see a clear reversal. Could reverse at the 79% area here through the course of the month. And then if it does, I can start to look for an opportunity to trade to the downside. It could come up to here this month. We've still got half the month to go, so it could quite clearly get up to here this month. That would be a great area to watch. We couldn't get above the 2022 high. We couldn't trade above it by a few pips last year. So quite clearly up here is where we could get a major failure if we retest it. So we could certainly retest it this month or next month. So it's worth us having that there monitoring to see whether we see a significant failure from, you know, where we're at right now up to 151.94. Do we start to see a lower top from the day chart as a signal for maybe a reversal? All right, so look at gold. Still in its area, in its range area. It's got almost back down to support once more, weekly chart. So I'm just going to take that fib off. Really, we're range bound. We did test the weekly support twice on 2 weekly candles. 2009 last month. We've just been a fraction short and already starting to reverse back up. So it's rather range bound. Really supports at 2009 and resistance is up at 2070. We traded above yesterday's high. This is probably going to confirm a little minor double bottom here to trade back up to the top of the range. So today, depending on what the news does, this would be the area to watch. Last week's low, 2014, down to 2009. If it stabbed into that area, look for support to be support, trade up. Other than that, right where it is, I need to see some kind of price pattern. I need to see the 4-hour uptrend turn up. I need to be able to then look for a dip of some form. And I don't know if price is going to stop there. I'm just kind of painting it out. Can we get some form of 4-hour uptrend form? Then can we get a dip maybe to the 62, 79% area? Offer you the opportunity to buy a dip in the 4-hour uptrend to then trade up. So price would need to show some kind of formation like that for me to get excited. But of course, we could dip back down support this week. It's moving up ahead of, the data coming out. But whatever the data is, the data could spike this down. Clearly support's down here at 2009. So couldn't quite get down there last week. All right, and questions from you, Azu. DXY, I'm just seeing that as an uptrend. DXY. Monthly charts forming a head and shoulders here to the upside. We've taken out January and December's highs this month already. So on the day chart here, this area here from 103.98 down to 103.85, that's support. That area would need to get negated for the uptrend to finish. So this could be, whilst that holds a support, there's every opportunity for this to continue to move up. If this area gets negated, well, of course, we could be moving back down. So at the moment, dollar index is in an uptrend. BTC, been a while since I looked at BTC. I was watching it on the news earlier in the day, or not too far on the news tonight, and they were saying it's a very BTC US dollar. Is that what you want? Azu, is that the one you want, BTC to the US dollar? I'm going to assume it is. I mean, at the moment, it's in the clear trend on the monthly, and it's going to be a clear trend on the weekly. Very overextended. So on the weekly here, I mean, of course, with Bitcoin, it can be very strong in its trend, but there's a little bit of a range here that we're moving above. We went down, broke this little area here, and then we're broken above this high. So if, from an upward perspective, 51.85 here, that 127R could be a headache for the market. And, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6 days up. So it's due a pullback. So it's in the sell area from a profit taking perspective. It's not in the sell area from a trading perspective. So it's not where I want to be buying at the moment. I'd need, if I was going to trade this, I'd need this to pull back within this range. Some kind of fib retracement here, looking for the opportunity to buy. But it's, in the short term, yes, well, in the long term, trend is up. In the short term, though, it's in the profit taking area, isn't it? Really, it's overextended. So I would need to see, be wise and look for a pullback, I think is the course of events there. All right, so that's my thoughts on the market at the moment. So if you coming in late, we do have a very important news item coming out at 11:30 p.m. Queensland time, my time. The US inflation data, CPI data, month on month, year on year. It's going to be probably very volatile as that gets released. So whether you want to be in the market or not, it's entirely up to you. I'm just got my levels ready, watching and waiting to see if price can come to a level that I'm happy to look at a failure at or reversal at, and then what can I do after that? I'm not going to be in the market before then. All right, so I'm going to leave it at that. If you want to join me tomorrow, tomorrow's education webinar is on trade orders. So it's quite a beginner webinar, but it's on trade orders, how to execute them in the N24 platform and what do they mean? What's the correct order for the type of entry you want to do? Steve, thanks. You're on the sidelines. Yeah, I'm on the sidelines from news perspective, just waiting for the news to pass, and then I'll see if I can get in or not. Hey, Marsh, asking me about a Telegram channel. We have a Telegram channel at ACY. Just contact Nathan.bray. Here is his details. If you're asking if I have one or I'm involved, I'm not involved in the Telegram channel at the moment. So, but we do have one. There's Nathan's details. You can contact him regarding that. All right, so if you want to be with me tomorrow, 8 p.m. Sydney time, I'm just going to be doing an education webinar on trade orders. And then on Thursday, 8 p.m. Sydney time, more analysis, okay? All right, thanks everybody. Have a great trading week. If I don't catch you in the week, other than that, I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks everybody.